Somebody said it yesterday, Bull, and I'm surprised you didn't double down on this. I loved it. I was at home. I couldn't really speak like I want to, but you said, hey, if I'm the Browns, you take Travis Hunter. And guess what? If Shedeur Sanders falls below a certain position, you trade back up and you go take him too. I'll take both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, people say it's far-fetched, but if you're the Cleveland Browns, I mean, you've already said it's going to take a couple of years to get this thing back up and moving. My thing is, I want to get super uber.
Shedeur, we talk oftentimes about quarterback being the most important position in the sport. We obviously spend a lot of time with Shedeur throughout the process. He's highly accurate, can play well from the pocket, very productive college career. And, we felt like it wasn't necessarily the plan going into the weekend to select two quarterbacks. But as we talk about, we do believe in best player available. We do believe in positional value. And, we didn't necessarily expect him to be available in the fifth round. And so we love.
The NFL just delivered a storyline straight out of a Hollywood script. And no, it's not fiction. A rookie quarterback with a famous last name, a team haunted by decades of failure, and rumors that the league's own power brokers are pulling strings behind the curtain. It's the kind of drama that makes fans wonder, are we still watching football? Or has the game turned into reality TV with helmets? At the center of it all is Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son, a player whose draft slide shocked analysts, whose swagger made headlines, and whose presence in Cleveland has already split owners, coaches, and fans right down the middle. Some say he's the Browns' golden ticket. Others believe he's being set up to fail before he's even had a chance to breathe. But how did it come to this? How did one rookie quarterback become the lightning rod for controversy, speculation, and whispers of league interference?
Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance with the play calling. You have an offensive line that isn't playing that well. So what do? Why not just play the short game so he can get the ball out of his hands very fast to run a competent goddamn offense?
When draft night rolled around, everyone expected Shedeur Sanders to go early. Analysts had him pegged as a second or third rounder at worst. Some even believed a quarterback-needy team might take a gamble late in the first. After all, his college resume spoke for itself. Big numbers, flashy highlights, and the poise of someone who had already lived in the spotlight thanks to his father, Deion "Primetime" Sanders. But instead of hearing his name called early, Shedeur sat and watched as pick after pick passed him by. The cameras caught him looking calm, but you could feel the tension building. So why did he slip? Officially, the answer depends on who you ask. Some scouts whispered about his mechanics, pointing out that while his arm talent is undeniable, he sometimes holds on to the ball too long. Others questioned his durability behind an NFL line. But those explanations don't quite cover the shock of a fall to the fifth round. That's when the real speculation started.
They're not conspiring to sabotage somebody who, by the way, would be great for the league. And he is great for the league because the league wants eyeballs on it. There is no reason they would be trying to conspire against him and sabotage him. He all goes on to say, I think he has a higher ceiling. He's a great playmaker. He was tremendously accurate. He has the feel when he's in the game and how to make the big plays. But just because you have the ceiling that's really high and the potential to...
Reports swirled that certain messages had been passed around front offices, hinting that drafting Shedeur too high might bring more headaches than wins. Was it his social media presence? His outspoken father, who had already turned college football upside down? Or was it simply NFL politics, where image matters just as much as talent? Nobody could say for sure, but the whispers were enough to make fans wonder if the fall wasn't just about football. For Shedeur, though, the slide wasn't the end of the story. It was fuel. Sitting through hours of draft picks only hardened his resolve. And when the Cleveland Browns finally took him off the board in the fifth round, it wasn't just a selection. It was a headline. A team known for quarterback chaos had just drafted one of the most polarizing names in college football. But a late pick doesn't erase expectations. In fact, for Shedeur Sanders, it did the opposite. It made every snap, every practice, every rumor about his future that much louder. Because falling in the draft wasn't just a setback, it was the spark that lit the firestorm to come. The moment Shedeur Sanders put on a Browns cap, the story wasn't about depth charts or playbooks. It was about spectacle. Unlike most rookies, Shedeur didn't have to earn attention. He walked into the league with cameras already pointed at him, fans chanting his name, and reporters ready to dissect every step he took. That's what happens when you're the son of Deion Sanders, a man who redefined what it meant to be larger than life. From day one, Shedeur's every move was magnified. When he strolled into training camp with chains around his neck and designer shades on his face, the media ate it up.
Thomas. I love Joe T. And I know that Joe T is in Cleveland. He's out there. He's amongst the people. So he knows the pulse a little bit. And for me, I think it's more of the managers, the general manager, the owners and things trying to just chill the noise. They understand that they have Shedeur. They're just really trying to start Joe Flacco right now because he's just a consecutive vet. You know what you're going to get.
When he posted a cryptic tweet after draft night, it wasn't just another athlete venting. It became headline news. ESPN segments, YouTube breakdowns, TikTok edits. Every platform turned Shedeur into must-watch content. And the hype wasn't just for show. His college career had already proven he could deliver. At Colorado, he threw pinpoint passes, made clutch plays, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who knew the spotlight would always follow him. Fans saw him as more than a quarterback. They saw a personality, a brand, a storyline waiting to unfold. But hype is a double-edged sword. For every fan who believed he was destined to save Cleveland, there was a critic rolling their eyes, calling him more influencer than athlete. Old-school analysts complained that he hadn't faced NFL-level defenses, that his highlights masked flaws, that too much flash could mean too little focus. Still, the league thrives on storylines, and Shedeur's was too big to ignore. He wasn't just joining the NFL, he was bringing an audience with him. Every practice clip turned into content. Every rumor about his playing time set social media ablaze. Whether people loved him or doubted him, one thing was certain: they were watching. And for the NFL, that was priceless. Because hype sells tickets, boosts ratings, and keeps the league at the center of cultural conversation. Which is why, when the Browns made their move, it wasn't just a draft pick. It was the opening act of a show the league desperately wanted on center stage. But behind the scenes, not everyone was clapping. Because inside the Browns' own building, the hype wasn't just opportunity, it was pressure. And that's where the real drama began. When the Cleveland Browns called Shedeur Sanders' name, it should have been a simple draft move. But nothing about Cleveland is ever simple. This is the franchise that has turned quarterback roulette into an annual tradition, burning through draft picks and veterans alike. So when they landed one of the most polarizing players in college football, the real story wasn't about his talent. It was about who actually wanted him in the building. Publicly, the Browns insisted it was a football decision. Owner Jimmy Haslam pointed to general manager Andrew Berry, saying the call was his. Coaches nodded along, repeating the company line. Best player available, great upside, nothing more. But insiders painted a more chaotic picture. Some claimed that higher forces in the NFL office weren't just watching, they were pushing. Whispers suggested that league executives wanted Shedeur in Cleveland, not just because of his skills, but because the Browns desperately needed a storyline bigger than their constant failures. Think about it. The Browns aren't just a struggling team. They're a punchline. Empty seats, frustrated fans, and endless late-night jokes. Dropping Shedeur Sanders into that mess wasn't just about football. It was about rebranding the franchise overnight. One exciting quarterback could transform the Browns from a ratings liability into primetime must-watch. But that plan came with tension. Coaches knew Shedeur needed development. teammates wondered how a rookie with no NFL snaps was suddenly the face of the franchise. And ownership? They weren't thrilled about the idea of being told what to do, especially if it was true that the league itself was leaning on them. Behind closed doors, reports described heated debates. Should Shedeur start right away? Should he sit and learn behind veterans? Or was the real decision already out of their hands? Billionaires don't like being ordered around, and Jimmy Haslam wasn't about to look like anyone's puppet, not even the league's. So instead of unity, the Browns' draft pick turned into a power struggle. Coaches versus executives, hype versus caution, autonomy versus interference. And while the boardroom battles raged, Shedeur was about to face a different test, the harsh reality of preseason football. All the debates in boardrooms didn't matter once Shedeur Sanders stepped onto an NFL field. This was the moment fans had waited for, the hype colliding with reality under the bright lights of preseason. And at first glance, it was chaos. Shedeur's debut was rough. The Browns' offensive line looked like it had holes big enough to drive a bus through. On one series, he barely had 2 seconds before defenders were collapsing the pocket. On another, he got flattened by a free rusher who might as well have been waved in by the blockers. Analysts didn't waste time pointing out the obvious. No rookie quarterback could succeed with that kind of protection. But here's the twist. Even in the mess, flashes of promise broke through. Shedeur's arm strength was undeniable. He zipped passes into tight windows, showing the accuracy that had made him a star at Colorado. His pocket presence, though raw, carried that same calm swagger fans had come to expect. It was clear he wasn't just surviving. He was still trying to create, even while running for his life. Still, critics seized the moment. See, they said, this is why you don't throw him in yet. Headlines framed the performance as proof he wasn't ready, ignoring the obvious truth. Even Tom Brady would have struggled behind that line. Meanwhile, whispers grew louder. Was the Browns' coaching staff intentionally setting him up to stumble? Were they calling plays designed to highlight his weaknesses rather than his strengths? Fans weren't buying it. Social media lit up with side-by-side clips, veteran quarterbacks being protected versus Shedeur dodging defenders like he was in a video game. The narrative shifted from, is he good enough, to, is the team even giving him a fair chance? And that question was gasoline on the fire, because the more people debated, the more the hype spread. Suddenly, Shedeur wasn't just a rookie QB anymore. He was the center of a storm, fans defending him, critics doubting him, and executives quietly calculating how much buzz he was bringing, even in struggle. But as the preseason unfolded, one thing became crystal clear. Whether Shedeur succeeded or stumbled, the story wasn't going away. And the louder the noise got, the more powerful voices started weighing in, voices the NFL couldn't ignore. The Browns could downplay the controversy all they wanted. But once the wider NFL world started talking, the story took on a life of its own. Suddenly, Shedeur Sanders wasn't just Cleveland's problem. He was a league-wide conversation. Travis Kelce, one of the NFL's biggest stars, didn't mince words. He flat out said, give the people what they want. In other words, start Shedeur. Fans clipped the quote, turned it into viral TikToks, and flooded Twitter with hashtags demanding the Browns unleash their rookie. Coming from a Super Bowl champion, it wasn't just hype. It was validation. Analysts piled in next. Some argued that holding Shedeur back would kill the momentum he built in college. They pointed out that his presence alone was electrifying the fan base, and that Cleveland couldn't afford to let the excitement die. Others, more cautious, warned that throwing him behind a weak offensive line was a recipe for disaster. Louis Riddick, respected across the league, voiced concern that the Browns were setting him up to fail. Too few reps with starters. Too much pressure too soon. And then there were the insiders. Rumors trickled out that TV networks and advertisers were already circling. For them, Shedeur wasn't just a quarterback. He was ratings gold. Networks wanted his games on primetime. Advertisers wanted his face in commercials. And social media platforms wanted his highlights plastered everywhere. To them, it didn't matter if he won games. It mattered if he trended. The flood of opinions created a bizarre reality. A fifth-round pick, a rookie yet to play a regular season snap, had become the subject of national debate. And every side had its own agenda. Fans wanted hope, media wanted clicks, the league wanted headlines. And the Browns? They just wanted to survive the storm without imploding. But if the voices around the league proved anything, it was this. Shedeur Sanders was already bigger than Cleveland. His name carried weight. His story carried drama, and his presence carried expectations no playbook could prepare for. And that begged the question. Was he being groomed as the Browns' savior, or was he just another pawn in the NFL's never-ending chase for spectacle? At this point, the debate wasn't just about football anymore. It was about the show. The NFL has always balanced competition with entertainment. But with Shedeur Sanders, the line seemed to vanish completely. Was he being groomed as Cleveland's future franchise quarterback, or was he just the league's latest headline act? Look at the situation. Reports suggested Shedeur barely practiced with the starters. Yet suddenly, he was being pushed into high-profile preseason snaps. Critics said it looked less like development and more like a ratings stunt. One analyst put it bluntly, "You don't drop a rookie into chaos unless you're chasing headlines, not wins." And honestly, that theory made sense. Shedeur wasn't just any rookie. He was a walking marketing machine. His last name guaranteed attention. His social media presence dwarfed most veterans. Wherever he went, Dion, Coach Prime, followed, sunglasses on, turning the sideline into a reality show. For the league, that was gold. For the Browns, it was pressure they couldn't escape. Even the way the controversy unfolded felt scripted. Leaks dripped to the media at just the right time. Social feeds lit up with speculation about ownership fights. TV panels debated whether the league had too much power. It was all so perfectly chaotic that fans started asking if the Browns were really making decisions, or if they were just props in a bigger performance. And here's the cold truth. Spectacle sells. The NFL doesn't need Cleveland to win a Super Bowl. It just needs Cleveland to matter, to trend, to keep fans glued to their screens. In that sense, Shedeur wasn't just playing quarterback. He was playing the lead role in a billion-dollar soap opera. But while the league and the networks cashed in on the chaos, Shedeur himself was stuck in the middle. Was this really his shot at greatness? Or was he being positioned to take the fall if things went south? To fans, it felt like both. And that's what made it impossible to look away. Because if Shedeur succeeded, it would be the ultimate underdog story. But if he failed, it would prove the darkest suspicion that in the NFL, sometimes the spectacle matters more than the game. So where does this all lead? Because for all the noise, debates, and speculation, the truth is Shedeur Sanders hasn't even taken a regular season snap yet. His story is still unwritten, and the paths in front of him couldn't be more different. Option 1, the Browns throw him into the fire. They hand him the reins, let him ride the hype wave, and pray his playmaking ability shines through. If it works, he could single-handedly change Cleveland's future. A rookie stepping into chaos and dragging a cursed franchise into the spotlight. That would be legend status, the kind of storyline that cements his name in NFL history. Option 2, he sits. The Browns let veterans soak up the hits while Shedeur develops behind the scenes. That might protect him, but it risks killing the buzz. Fans are patient and networks don't want to wait. D, Every week he stays on the sideline will feel like wasted potential, and the pressure to play him will only grow louder. And then there's the nightmare scenario. He starts, but the Browns' dysfunction swallows him whole. Behind a shaky offensive line, with play calls that don't fit his strengths, he could be set up to fail in real time, his hype turning into ridicule overnight. And if that happens, it won't just damage his confidence. It could derail the entire franchise's attempt at a reboot. That's the tightrope Cleveland is walking. Too cautious, and they waste momentum. Too reckless, and they risk destroying the very player who could save them. Meanwhile, the league watches with hungry eyes because Shedeur isn't just a quarterback. He's a product, an image, a storyline that could carry entire broadcasts. What's next? Nobody knows. But what's guaranteed is this. Every snap he takes will be magnified. Every mistake turned into a debate. Every success spun into a headline. In a way, Shedeur Sanders has already changed Cleveland. For the first time in years, the Browns aren't just a team. They're the center of the NFL's most unpredictable drama. But that leaves one final question, the one that could define his entire career. In the end, Shedeur Sanders represents more than just a rookie quarterback stepping into a struggling franchise. He's the collision point between hype and reality, business and sport, spectacle and competition. His draft fall shocked analysts, his arrival in Cleveland divided insiders, and his preseason performances sparked debates louder than most playoff games. Every detail of his journey so far has been amplified until it feels less like football and more like a season of must-watch drama. For the Browns, he's both a blessing and a burden. On one hand, he's the spark they've been missing for decades, a player who can energize fans, sell tickets, and finally, give Cleveland a storyline that isn't just heartbreak. On the other hand, he's a walking spotlight, and with that comes the risk of exposing just how unstable the franchise really is. If they handle him right, he could be their redemption. If they mishandle him, he could become another cautionary tale in a long list of failed quarterbacks. For the league, the picture is even clearer. Shedeur isn't just a player. He's a product. He brings eyeballs, headlines, and cultural relevance. And whether the NFL admits it or not, that's exactly why his name won't leave the conversation. They know he matters far beyond the box score. And then there's Shedeur himself. Caught between billionaires arguing in boardrooms, fans fighting on social media, and analysts dissecting every snap. He's still just a rookie trying to prove he belongs. He has the tools, the swagger, and the name. But what he doesn't have yet is control over the narrative, the franchise, or the storm that surrounds him. So here's the big question. Is Shedeur Sanders truly Cleveland's future? Or is he just the latest pawn in the NFL's billion-dollar drama machine? Will he rise above the chaos to become the savior fans believe in? Or will he be remembered as another victim of hype, pressure, and bad timing? Either way, one thing is certain. The NFL has made sure that everyone is watching. And in a league where attention equals power, that might be the most important play of all.